The sum of $2.98, that's the exact amount required to purchase a gallon of paint. His father, in anticipation of this expense, hands him a $5 bill, a pristine, brand new $5 bill. Do you know of a place where a bucket of paint still only costs $3? Yeah, me neither. But this simple scenario, this clip, is how we were conditioned to view money as a fixed, logical, mechanical entity. However, the truth is far more profound. You didn't stumble upon this content by mere chance. A part of you deep down understands that money transcends mere paper, digits, or work points. It's a form of energy, and at this very moment, it's either gravitating toward you or desperately fleeing. This isn't due to laziness on your part, nor is it the result of bad luck. And it certainly isn't because you're undeserving. It all boils down to one crucial element: your frequency. Money is indifferent to effort. It doesn't reward relentless grinding. It doesn't materialize for the desperate. Instead, it mirrors you, your foundational beliefs, your subconscious programming, and the emotional charge you associate with it. If money evokes feelings of chaos, scarcity, or a tendency to vanish as quickly as it arrives, it's not because you're inherently flawed or making critical mistakes. It's because you were improperly wired, perhaps by parents who constantly stressed about financial obligations, by educational institutions that neglected to teach the principles of wealth, or by societal systems that trained you solely for survival, not for thriving. And that outdated wiring continues to exert its influence on your financial life, operating like a virus within your subconscious. Let this sink in. Money isn't responsive to pure logic. It responds to energy. You can possess advanced degrees, work grueling 18-hour days, and desire wealth more than anything else. But if your underlying frequency broadcasts, "I don't have enough," the universe obligingly listens and provides you with more of exactly that. At present, you're likely tuned into one of two distinct channels: lack or flow. And here's the undeniable reality. Whichever channel you're currently locked into is dictating the course of your financial reality. But the encouraging news is that you're not permanently confined to that channel. This situation isn't irreversible. It's not a predetermined fate. You possess the power to rewire your internal circuitry, to retune your frequency, and to shift your energetic field in such a way that wealth gravitates toward you as naturally and effortlessly as oxygen. And that's precisely what this guide offers: a step-by-step roadmap to completely recalibrating the wealth game in your favor. Because here's a truth that's rarely acknowledged. Money isn't earned, it's allowed. And until you address and heal that core wound, the one that whispers, "It's not safe for me to possess wealth," nothing will truly take hold. No budget, no relentless hustle, no manifestation technique will produce lasting results. Here's the key unlock. Money is energy, and your personal energy serves as the password. Let's dismantle the illusion. Money isn't a tangible thing. It's a frequency. It's not earned, nor is it simply handed out, nor is it deserved solely through relentless grinding. Rather, it's matched, it's permitted, and it's mirrored back to you based entirely on your internal state. Until you grasp this fundamental principle, you'll continue to participate in a rigged game designed to exhaust and deplete you. Here's what they never taught you. Money isn't backed by gold, nor is it supported by any inherent hard value. It's backed by one singular thing: belief. Our collective agreement in its worth and functionality is what sustains the entire system. Belief equates to an energetic contract. Just as the observer effect functions in quantum physics, your beliefs collapse potential into reality. Believe that money is difficult to acquire, and boom, you experience that version of reality. Believe that money flows to you with ease, and you collapse that alternative timeline into existence. The universe listens to frequency. Your subconscious mind sets the frequency, and a staggering 90% of that programming was established before you even possessed the ability to speak or read. Ponder that for a moment. This explains why sheer hard work alone never suffices. It's why individuals grind for 12-hour days and still feel financially strained. It's why someone with less overt hustle but a cleaner energetic field effortlessly attracts wealth without excessive exertion. Because it's not about doing more, it's about being aligned. No alignment equates to no flow. It's that simple and that profoundly impactful if you choose to ignore it. Money isn't real in the traditional sense. It's not rooted in nature, nor is it a divine law. It's simply paper, just digits, a belief system with exceptional branding. And yet, this illusion governs your life. It dictates how you feel upon waking each morning, how safe you feel in your own skin, and how worthy you perceive yourself to be. Why? Because from the time you were a child, you were effectively hypnotized into believing that money equals survival, success, and inherent value. And now, often without conscious awareness, you live in service to something that exists solely because you believe in it. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a basic principle of spiritual law. Money is belief made physical. Allow me to illustrate just how deeply this spell permeates our reality. If every person on earth were to awaken tomorrow and declare that money holds no value, the entire system would instantly collapse. No banks, no credit, nothing. This scenario has already unfolded repeatedly throughout history. Germany in the 1920s, Zimbabwe in the 2000s. People were resorting to burning stacks of cash simply to stay warm, not because they had lost their money, but because the collective belief in its value had disintegrated. And here's the crucial piece you were never told. This belief system isn't neutral, it's inherently rigged. You were programmed to perceive money as difficult to obtain, easy to lose, and accessible only to the lucky or the ruthless. Why? Because if they can maintain you in a state of scarcity, they can more effectively control you and ensure your obedience. This extends beyond banks and governments. It's a form of spiritual warfare. Now let's delve into slightly more esoteric territory because words possess power. Consider the word currency. It originates from the Latin currere, meaning to run or to flow. That's precisely what money was always intended to be: movement, energy, circulation. And what transpires when your internal wiring is built upon a foundation of lack? You block the natural flow. You repel money without even realizing it. It's irrelevant how intelligent you are, how diligently you grind, or how intensely you desire it. Somewhere along the line, the system was hijacked. Money ceased to be a flowing entity and instead became a tool for control. Governments, corporations, and institutions seized what was once fluid and froze it, transforming energy into shackles. They constructed a system that superficially resembles freedom but keeps your soul tethered on a leash. Debt isn't an accidental byproduct, it's a deliberate design. You're instructed to pursue an education in order to achieve success, but what you truly acquire is decades of repayment obligations. You exchange your time for a paycheck, not to live freely, but to barely survive within someone else's set of rules. That's the spell. That's the illusion. And here's the harsh reality. It was never the money itself that enslaved you. It was how you were programmed to feel about it. The true magic trick wasn't the paper currency. It was the belief system they implanted into your nervous system. The pervasive feeling that there's never enough, that you must relentlessly hustle for permission, and that your inherent worth is directly proportional to your productivity. But here's what they fear most. If you reclaim your belief, you reclaim your power. Because you were never intended to bow down to money, you were meant to utilize it as a tool. Money is not a deity. You were born to flow, not to fear, not to chase, and not to grind for the scraps of a system designed to keep you confined. Your true purpose isn't simply to accumulate more. It's to completely escape the trap, to dismantle the invisible architecture within your subconscious that tells you you're only valuable if you're suffering. Know you were created for abundance, and now it's time to reclaim it. And here's the secret that's rarely taught. Money loves movement. It thrives on circulation. It withers in the presence of fear. When you hoard out of panic, you're not safeguarding your future. You're casting a spell of lack. You're transmitting one clear, resounding signal to the universe. I don't trust the flow. I don't believe that more is coming. And the universe, being a perfect mirror, reflects that exact frequency back to you. Because this is the immutable law: as within, so without; as above, so below. Your internal state becomes your external bank account. If you feel safe, open, and abundant, money flows. If you tighten, hoard, and stress, money disappears. Because money isn't just a numerical value, it's a current, it's energy in motion. It's called currency for a reason. It was intended to flow. But when you spend with intention, when you give with confidence, and when you invest from a place of overflow rather than fear, you flip the switch. You activate the flow. Because money isn't meant to be locked away in vaults. It's meant to move and circulate. The biggest lie they perpetuated is to save everything, spend nothing, and cling tightly to your money. Energetically, that's akin to holding your breath until you lose consciousness. Money is like oxygen. You inhale, you exhale, you give, you receive. You can't simply take, and you can't simply save. You have to move it. Wealth isn't built by what you retain. It's activated by what you release with trust. Because wealth isn't a tangible thing. It's a circuit, and circuits only function when they're open. The moment you open that flow, the system responds. Not someday, but immediately. Allow me to introduce you to someone named Eric. He's a fictional character, but he might as well be real, because a part of you likely identifies with him. Eric is 49 years old and works as a self-employed plumber. He's been in the trade for 22 years. He's the person people call when ceilings are collapsing, when pipes burst at 3 a.m., and when no one else answers the phone. Eric shows up, and he's not lazy, not unintelligent, and not reckless. He's consistently early, he undercharges for his services, and he completes the job correctly every single time. And yet he's perpetually broke, constantly chasing bills and living paycheck to paycheck. He keeps telling himself it's just a slow season, but the reality is that Eric isn't just physically tired. He's energetically bankrupt, burned out from more than just the physical labor. He's burned out from carrying a spell, the same spell you might be carrying right now. If I'm not struggling, I don't deserve money. If I charge more, no one will hire me. If I finally achieve success, something bad will inevitably happen. Eric doesn't simply fix pipes. He fixes everyone else's problems because deep down, he never learned how to solve his own. He was taught that being a good man meant sacrificing himself, that asking for more was selfish, and that making substantial money would transform him into someone people would despise. So instead of rising, he shrinks. He labels it humility, but it's not. It's fear disguised as virtue. Fear handed down like a family heirloom from generations of men who died broke and were praised solely for working hard until the very end. Eric doesn't understand that money is energy. He views it as a form of punishment, something you earn by bleeding, crawling, and grinding through basements and blisters. And every time he manages to get ahead, boom, a random bill, a broken van, a slow week, a fine. But it's not random. It's a predictable pattern. His nervous system is wired for one primary purpose: survival, not overflow, not expansion, and not peace. Because somewhere deep within his subconscious, Eric made a decision he doesn't even recall. If I have more, I'll lose myself. If I stop struggling, no one will need me. If I charge what I'm worth, I'll end up alone. So he maintains his current rates. He keeps saying yes when he desperately wants to scream no. And he continues to wonder why nothing ever changes. But the truth is that Eric isn't fundamentally broken. He's simply running outdated code. Subconscious scripts passed down from generations who never paused to question them. And unless he rewrites that code, nothing will shift. Not his income, not his clientele, and not his perpetual struggle. Because no matter how diligently he works, his energy is still screaming, "Please don't let me thrive. I wouldn't even know who I am without the suffering." If that resonates with you, it's because you've lived it, you've worn the same armor, and you've told yourself the same story. But here's where the power lies. The spell only retains its hold as long as it remains unconscious. And now that you see it, you feel it, and you know it, the pattern is exposed. The story isn't finished, not for Eric and not for you. Awareness shatters the spell, and conscious choice rewrites the code. Because here's the underlying truth. You weren't born with a scarcity mindset, you inherited it. It began early, perhaps when you were a child and asked for something simple, only to hear, "We can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. Be grateful for what you have." Those weren't just innocent phrases. They were commands, deliberately planted in your subconscious like code etched into your nervous system like scars. And every time you heard them, your body learned one fundamental principle. Money is hard, money is scarce, and wanting more is wrong. By the time you reached the age of 7, your financial blueprint was already firmly locked in, not based on truth, not based on universal laws, but based on fear, based on lack, and based on someone else's wounds. Then school reinforced it. Did anyone ever educate you about energy, about wealth frequency, or about how to truly receive? No, they taught you to sit still, memorize facts, obey instructions, trade time for money, follow rules, and ask permission. They didn't train you for freedom. They trained you for the rat race. And religion then layered on another level of conditioning. The love of money is the root of all evil. Blessed are the poor. You can't serve God and money. Let's set the record straight. Money isn't inherently evil. It's neutral. It simply amplifies what's already present. If you're greedy, money magnifies that greed. If you're generous, money becomes a tool for amplified positive impact. But guess who benefits when you believe that being broke is somehow holy? The system, because broke individuals are easier to control. And then there's the potential for trauma. Perhaps you witnessed your parents arguing over bills. Perhaps money vanished as quickly as it appeared. Perhaps every time things felt good, something inevitably collapsed. Those moments didn't just cause hurt. They imprinted themselves on your psyche. They wired your body to fear having money, to brace for potential loss, and to anticipate chaos. So now, every time abundance manifests, you flinch, you undersell yourself, you overgive, and you subtly sabotage your own success. Because somewhere deep inside, your energy is saying, wealth isn't safe. It's better to lose it before it gets taken from me. And if that wasn't sufficient, we now have social media pouring gasoline on the fire. You scroll through your feeds and witness everyone else winning, flashing their success, and moving at a pace that feels faster than your own. And instead of feeling inspired, you feel inadequate, small, ashamed, and less than. That's not motivation. That's energetic debt. And you're paying the price every time you compare, every message you absorb, every moment you spend dwelling on what you lack. All of it is stacked into your blueprint. And whether you're consciously aware of it or not, that blueprint is actively creating your financial reality in this very moment. But here's where your power lies. What was programmed can be deprogrammed. Let's delve deeper into a concept that most individuals don't openly discuss, but that mystics have understood for centuries. In Kabbalah, there's a central principle. Energy flows through vessels. But here's the critical catch. If your vessel is unstable, if it's too small, too fractured, or built upon a foundation of fear, the divine light doesn't bless you, it breaks you. This explains why some individuals attract money only to immediately lose it. You've likely witnessed it, and perhaps you've even experienced it yourself. They obtain a raise, they secure a lucrative contract, they inherit a substantial sum, they win a lawsuit, or they sell their company, and then they completely unravel. Stress skyrockets, paranoia creeps in, they overspend, they underperform, and they ultimately sabotage everything, returning to the exact same place they were before. Consider lottery winners. 70% of them go broke within 5 years, and some end up in a worse financial position than they were before they won. Now let's examine professional athletes. These individuals train for years, exhibiting intense discipline, sacrifice, and mental fortitude. But the instant they sign multi-million-dollar contracts, they frequently unravel. According to Sports Illustrated, 78% of NFL players face bankruptcy or significant financial stress within 2 years of retirement, and 60% of NBA players are broke within 5 years of leaving the league. These are individuals who ostensibly had everything: money, fame, attention, and access. So what went wrong? No one taught them how to reprogram their subconscious wealth identity. As a result, the money flows in rapidly and then exits just as quickly, because if you don't genuinely believe you're safe to hold wealth, you will subconsciously eject it, even if you're rich on paper, and even if the rest of the world perceives you as having made it. That's precisely why this isn't simply about acquiring money. It's about preparing your energy field to hold it, protect it, and expand with it. Because if money is energy, your energy field serves as the container. If that field is cracked, chaotic, weak, or unhealed, money will do what energy invariably does. It will short-circuit the system. You don't just need to attract wealth. You need to be able to hold it without experiencing a complete breakdown. And here's the often unspoken truth. Most people's energy fields are fragile, not because they're inherently weak, but because they've never been taught how to protect their frequency. They attract money, but they're still leaking energy. So when the money manifests, their field cracks, their nervous system collapses, and they find themselves spiraling, even with more than enough. Why? Because their energetic vessel couldn't contain what arrived. In Kabbalistic terms, this is referred to as the shattering of the vessels. It's not a form of punishment, it's simply feedback. The divine light didn't betray them, it merely exposed their energetic limitations. Because money doesn't inherently fix who you are, it reveals who you already are and then amplifies it. If you harbor guilt, shame, fear, or trauma surrounding money, that's precisely what will intensify when the money arrives. If you feel unsafe receiving, you'll reject abundance when it manifests. If you don't believe you're inherently enough, you'll find a way to push wealth away so that your external reality aligns with your subconscious self-image. Let's momentarily set aside our egos. You've worked hard, you've provided for others, you've fixed problems, you've remained quiet, you've toughed it out, often while no one inquired about your well-being. You've made it this far, but let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time you truly felt rich? Not on paper, not in your bank account, but in your body, in your spirit, and in your soul? If you're being completely honest, it's likely been a while, hasn't it? Because you've been bleeding energy for years, not just through bills and responsibilities, but through silence, suppression, loneliness, and shame. No one ever taught you how to receive. They only taught you how to give until you collapsed. So now you're left with a tired body, a cluttered mind, and a growing sense of resentment that whispers, "What the hell is all of this for?" You don't openly discuss it. You wouldn't dare utter it aloud. But it's there, lurking beneath the surface. And here's the harsh reality. You're not just financially blocked, you're energetically blocked. You're carrying the weight of generations of men who never achieved true freedom, men who worked themselves to death while masking their pain behind a quiet nod and a half-hearted smile. You might think it's about money, but it's not. It's about what money represents: safety, power, peace, and the choice, the ability to say no without guilt. And until you heal the parts of you that feel inherently unworthy of that freedom, you'll continue chasing scraps and labeling it survival. It's not too late, but you can't continue pretending. Because here's what will happen if you do. You'll continue working for less than you're worth. You'll continue waking up with anxiety gripping your chest. You'll continue distracting yourself with YouTube videos and mindless scrolling, and eventually you'll break down alone, bitter and unseen, just like your father did, just like your grandfather did, and just like every other man who mistakenly believed that money would save him without ever learning how to save himself first. That's the real reason you're watching this right now. Some part of you intuitively knows that superficial strategies aren't enough and that surface-level fixes won't suffice. You need a new frequency. You need to be rebuilt from the inside out. Let's assume you're ready. You're done pretending, you're done struggling in silence, and you're ready to change everything. Excellent, because this isn't about theoretical concepts anymore. This is about actively reprogramming your energy field and transforming into a man who holds wealth with ease, purpose, and inner peace. But before wealth can trust you, you must first learn how to trust yourself. Here's what that entails. 1. Seal your energy field. Music. Start your morning by waking up without immediately reaching for your phone or creating external noise. Stand in silence and audibly declare, "I command my energy back. I close all loops leaking power. I am safe to receive. I am ready to hold more." Practice slow, deliberate breaths like a man who's not afraid to embrace stillness. 2. Move with value. Don't simply work. Operate with the conviction that your time is sacred. Increase your prices, decline requests from individuals who drain your energy, and present yourself as someone who understands that your energy is a form of currency, because it is. 3. Speak like a wealthy man. Eliminate phrases like, I can't afford it, it's just not in the cards, or I guess I'll figure it out. Instead, consciously choose to say, wealth is finding me now. Every dollar I spend returns multiplied. My value increases daily, and I'm safe to receive more than I ever have. Even if it feels inauthentic at first, say it, because your subconscious doesn't discern between a lie and a command. 4. Clean your space. Approach cleaning as if you're preparing for royalty. Your environment reflects your subconscious mind. If your surroundings are chaotic, your mind is likely leaking power. Clean, organize, and burn something sacred to create space for abundance, both literally and figuratively. 5. Night ritual. Subconscious wealth implantation. Before sleep, ensure there are no distractions. Close your eyes and affirm, I did enough today. I trust the process. I release control. I receive in my rest. Visualize yourself as wealthy, not in a flashy, ostentatious way, but simply free. Imagine waking up slowly, breathing deeply, and engaging in work you love, not because you desperately need the money, but because you're aligned with it. This isn't about becoming a new person. It's about returning to the man you were before the world conditioned you to shrink, before you were taught to hide, and before you believed that struggle was your primary purpose. This is your ritual of return to power, to inner peace, and to wealth. And if no one has explicitly stated this to you before, let me be the first. You are absolutely allowed to rise. And this time, you don't have to navigate the journey alone. Here's a challenging truth. Most individuals will never experience true wealth, not because they lack money, but because they don't know how to truly perceive it. They define wealth too narrowly, too literally, and too superficially. They equate wealth with cash, numbers on a screen, bills in a wallet, or digital balances in banking apps. But those are merely the lowest vibrations of abundance, the final expressions of wealth after it has already manifested through every higher dimension. In truth, wealth is encoded in far more subtle forms: a stranger offering assistance without expecting anything in return, a near disaster that is miraculously averted, a routine health checkup that yields clean results, a client unexpectedly canceling a contract that would have ultimately drained you, a chance conversation with a random individual that realigns your entire life trajectory, or a simple delay that shields you from something unseen. If you fail to recognize these occurrences as legitimate forms of currency, you are energetically rejecting the flow of abundance without even realizing it. This is the spiritual trap. If you only recognize dollars as wealth, you are spiritually impoverished, even when life is attempting to bless you in countless other ways. Because the source doesn't only pay in cash, it also pays in time, in energy, in protection, in redirection, in inner peace, in improved health, and in the presence of supportive individuals. But the majority of people are so heavily programmed to solely focus on money that when these miracles manifest in disguise, they often ignore them, dismiss them, or even worse, complain that money still hasn't arrived. Imagine that the universe prevents you from contracting an illness you never even saw coming. But because no money landed in your bank account that day, you still feel broke. This is the poverty mindset in its most toxic form: blindness to the invisible forms of wealth. You must consciously adjust your lens. You must begin to recognize the higher forms of wealth before the lower ones can truly take hold. Because here's the metaphysical law: what you acknowledge expands, and what you ignore contracts. If you begin to perceive every blessing, every redirection, and every moment of grace as a legitimate form of income, you will expand your capacity to receive far more rapidly than any amount of relentless hustle could ever achieve. Why? Because you're finally demonstrating to the universe that you're paying attention and that you can hold wealth in all its multifaceted forms, not just cash, but also energy, insight, favor, and flow. And once you can do that, cash simply becomes a welcome side effect, not the primary objective. To the universe, a miracle requires no more energy than a single coin. It's all fundamentally energy. The universe is indifferent to your obsession with bills or bank accounts. It's solely concerned with whether your energy field is open. And your energy field opens when your perception shifts. So here's the work. Start actively tracking non-monetary abundance. What transpired for you today that saved time, energy, or stress? Who offered help, guidance, or simply their presence without being solicited? What negative outcome didn't materialize that could have potentially gone wrong? These aren't insignificant occurrences. They are currency codes, wealth signals. The more you consciously acknowledge them, the more your subconscious will accept and integrate the reality of wealth. Here's a truth that you were likely never told. Money doesn't just respond to effort. It responds to signals, energetic signals, emotional signals, and ritualistic signals. Your bank account isn't merely a reflection of your income. It's a reflection of your frequency. If your frequency broadcasts a message of being stuck, then even when money arrives, it won't stay. That's why mindset alone isn't sufficient. You also need rituals, physical anchors that transmit a clear message to the universe. I'm no longer operating from a place of fear. I'm now operating from a place of overflow. Here are 3 simple physical acts that speak directly to the language of your subconscious and to the universe, and they produce noticeable results quickly. 1. The circulation spell. Money that doesn't move becomes stagnant and energetically dead. When you hoard out of fear, you disrupt the natural energetic current. This spell instantly reactivates that current. What to do? Give a small amount of money away anonymously. It doesn't have to be a large sum. It can be as little as $5. Give it to someone who is in need, leave it in a tip jar, slip it into a stranger's grocery cart, or pay for the coffee of the next person in line. But here's the crucial element. Do it with a clear and conscious thought. Mentally affirm, this proves that I trust the flow. I allow it to move because I know it always returns multiplied. This isn't primarily about charity. It's about energetic circulation. You're signaling to the universe that you're not in a state of fear, but rather in a state of command. And once that current is reopened, it flows back even stronger. 2. The receipt ritual. Most individuals make purchases and experience feelings of guilt, shame, fear, and tightness. As a result, their energy transmits the message, I'm not safe to spend, I'm scared it won't return. That negative signal effectively kills the flow. This ritual consciously reprograms that frequency at the precise moment money is leaving your possession. What to do? Take a receipt from a purchase that genuinely made you feel good. Not a survival purchase, but a joyful purchase, such as a nice dinner, a meaningful gift, or an insightful book. Something that evokes feelings of lightness. On the back of the receipt, write the affirmation, money returns to me multiplied with ease. Then fold the receipt and place it in your wallet or purse. Every time you see it, touch it, or even simply feel it, you remind your subconscious that you are the source, not the system, and that money flows through you, not merely to you. That's a fundamentally different identity, and the universe invariably responds to your identity. 3. The overflow envelope. Most people only utilize money in 2 ways, spending it and feeling guilty, or saving it and feeling terrified of losing it. This ritual introduces a third, far more powerful path, pure overflow. What to do? Every time you receive money, regardless of how small the amount may be, take 5 to 10% of it and place it in a special envelope clearly labeled overflow. Don't touch it, don't save it for emergencies, and simply allow it to build over time. Why? Because this is energetic evidence. You're signaling to your subconscious that this isn't your last dollar, that you're not merely surviving, and that you have more than enough. You're not hoarding, you're declaring a state of abundance and creating a visual, physical reminder that you now operate from a state of overflow. The more you build this envelope, the more your identity aligns with that underlying truth, and the more readily money begins to flow in, not through forced effort, but through natural resonance. These aren't merely habits, they are frequency codes, rituals that reprogram your nervous system and broadcast a new signal to the universe. You can't just think rich. You must also act in alignment. Ritual is the bridge that connects thought to physical form. So begin today. Don't wait for some future moment. Send the signal now and observe how quickly the system responds. As a well-known example, consider Jim Carrey. He wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was a broke and virtually unknown actor, dated it 5 years into the future, and visualized cashing it daily, sometimes while parked on Mulholland Drive, overlooking Los Angeles. The incredible part is that precisely 5 years later, he landed a movie deal that paid him exactly $10 million. Coincidence? Not even close. That's what transpires when your subconscious blueprint becomes so strong and unwavering that reality has no choice but to align with it. You might not be aware of this yet, but there was a man who cracked the code decades ago, long before manifestation became trendy, before the rise of self-proclaimed gurus, and before individuals transformed it into a mere game of scripting and crystal manipulation. His name was Neville Goddard, and his teachings still unsettle many people today because they strip away every excuse you've been using to justify your current circumstances. Born in 1905, Neville wasn't a preacher, a businessman, or someone attempting to sell you anything. He was simply a man who had directly experienced the truth and dedicated the remainder of his life to helping others recognize it for themselves. His message was radical then, and it remains radical now. Your imagination is God. Your assumptions create reality, and you are not a victim. You are the cause. This isn't about adopting a believe and you'll receive mentality, nor is it about simply thinking positive thoughts. Neville taught that consciousness is the only true reality, and that everything you experience in the external world is merely an outer projection of your inner assumptions. He repeatedly emphasized, the world is yourself pushed out, meaning that your relationships, your bank account, your perceived bad luck, and your successes, or lack thereof, are all mirrors, not of your outward actions or relentless hustle, but of your deepest, most subconscious beliefs. Here's what distinguishes Neville from the vast majority of others. Most people focus on what they desire, while Neville focused on what you inherently assume. Because what you desire might simply be a fleeting fantasy, while what you assume, what you genuinely live from, feel from, and embody on a daily basis, is what truly imprints itself on your subconscious, and therefore is what ultimately manifests in your reality. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. If you desire more money, you could spend hours visualizing stacks of cash every day, but if you still subconsciously assume, I'm inherently broke, money doesn't come easily, and that's not something people like me experience, then no amount of scripting or vision boarding will ultimately save you. The feeling is the secret. This was Neville's most crucial message. It's the title of one of his most famous books. Feeling is the secret, not simply thinking or mechanically reciting affirmations, but genuinely feeling. Why? Because your subconscious mind doesn't communicate in English. It communicates through vibration, emotion, repetition, and identity. When you feel something as true, your body relaxes and your nervous system accepts it as a given. Neville instructed his students to assume the wish fulfilled, to live from the end result, not merely moving toward it. Not, I hope it happens one day, but rather, I already am. I already have. I already live in this state. For instance, if you desire more money, Neville wouldn't suggest starting a business or developing a detailed plan. Instead, he'd instruct you to go into a quiet room, close your eyes, and imagine that it's already done. Don't just visualize the money arriving. Instead, imagine that it has already happened. Picture yourself checking your bank account and seeing the desired balance. Imagine paying for things without even flinching. Imagine feeling safe, free, and relieved. Breathe in that feeling and fall asleep while immersed in that feeling, because sleep serves as the gateway to your subconscious, and whatever you fall asleep feeling becomes your dominant vibration. Here's one of Neville's specific techniques. Before bed, replay your day, but this time consciously revise what transpired. If someone disrespected you, imagine them praising you. If you missed a sale, imagine that it successfully closed. If you felt fear, replace it with feelings of inner peace. Why? Because your subconscious doesn't differentiate between what's real and what's vividly imagined. If you emotionally revise your memories, your subconscious will begin to store the revised version as the factual truth. Do that consistently enough, and your external reality will inevitably shift to match it. But what if you struggle to truly believe it? This is the subtle trap. You likely want concrete proof before you're willing to genuinely believe. Neville flips that entirely, asserting that you must first believe it, and then you will see it, not the other way around. He recognized that your external world inevitably lags behind your inner shifts. He understood that most people give up right before reality cracks open and begins to align with their new assumptions. As a result, he implored his students to persist in the assumption, even if all available evidence seemingly contradicts it. That's where most people falter. They might vividly imagine wealth for 2 nights, but then they glance at their bank account and immediately declare, "See, it didn't work." But that's the test.